After a week off, Golden State Hoop is back. We're going to lead with the Valkyrie stuff and the WNBA stuff because I think there's just more going on right now than there's going on with the Warriors. But we'll save that until the end where we talk about the Warriors because I do want to talk about Kristaps Porzingis. And I do want to get your thoughts on what we kind of expect to happen with Steve Kerr. I feel like this story there hasn't been enough made out about whether or not Steve Kerr comes back to the Warriors. I think this is a giant story that it just feels like there's no real media coverage of yet. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Justė. You saw some Justė. She played actual hoop that you watched. So we'll get some thoughts on that. Some WNBA mock draft stuff, as well as the CBA stuff. So let's kick it off. Let's talk some WNBA and some Valkyries. All right, you got to watch Justė play. What did you think? I was kind of watching the back and forth in the Discord. It didn't sound like she played very well, and maybe even got yanked a little earlier than you thought. What have you seen from her game of late?
I'm more of like an off and on watcher. As she mentioned in the podcast we did with her, she plays for Girona, a Spanish team, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation for that. But they someone in our Discord, another reason to join our Discord is Casta's kind of been on it way more than I have. He's probably watched the majority of Girona's games. But I've been able to kind of catch some here and there, and they started off like the year kind of as one of the best teams, and it seems like they've kind of fallen back to earth. Maybe that's the departure of Valkyrie Letitia Ami here, who went to Unrivaled. That she's not on that team now, and I feel like probably the record since she left hasn't been as great. But I haven't watched enough to know what really their issues have been outside of maybe Casta had mentioned that Justė's scoring production has maybe gone down a little bit just because maybe teams are game planning against her better. They know that she's a primary focus and how to guard against her. But every time I watch her, I'm just like pretty impressed of like just how smart of a player she is. And even though maybe the shot's not falling as it was in the last game, the rebounds and the playmaking's there. Like it's not like she's a non-factor if she's in the game. It's just a smart basketball player and is always just going to make the right play. I think sometimes you want to see like the selfishness. Honestly, you want to see her take over and just like have a get the F out of the way. It's I'm on a run right now. But I think she plays, maybe it's I don't know what it is, but I think she ended the game with maybe like 3 points, and she didn't score until like the fourth and like a heave, like a longer three. And I think she was wide open on that shot, but they played against Fenerbahce. And that's like basically like damn near a WNBA All-Star team. It has Misamin, it has Gabby Williams, it has Uzun, it has K-Mac, it has Julie Alamon, it has Ileana Rupert. Like there's just a ton of WNBA talent on that team, and they are always like historically a good team. At least since I've been paying attention, that it's a Turkish team. And who else? I think Monique Billings was on that team before she went to Unrivaled. But yeah, no, I mean, probably seen like again like maybe like 5 games off and on for Girona, and I think Justė is going to be fine. Like the when I watch, I'm just like, wow, she's so good at just that 3-point shot just looks so good, and I am just like, I can't wait until she's able to get more wide open looks with the Valkyries.
Now, the offense that she plays in right now compared to the Valkyries offense, is there anything you can take from her usage, how often she's getting the ball? Like it sounds like she's very much a team player, so she's not always looking for her shot. But as we saw last year with the way that they ran their offense, like the whole goal is to put up as many 3-pointers as humanly possible.
Right. So her play style kind of fits with that if she's going to be able to just get these 3-point shots. I wonder how much they're going to use her in like say the pick and roll or something, because I feel like when I watch her at Girona, she's not as much involved on like the on ball action as it is like just kind of being a catch and shoot player, which I again, I've only watched like a select few games, so I haven't really seen everything. but I feel like that's a misuse of her talent, and she has to be more on ball. She has to be more involved in pick and roll action to be able to generate like a mid-range look that she can hit. But there's stuff that she needs to work on, and I think she knows it too. And she mentioned it on the podcast, but defense, and just getting stronger, right? But other than that, I'm always pretty like impressed when I watch her play. Just considering how young she is, I think she's 20, or I think she's 20, and just being that smart about playing the game is always impressive to watch.
Now, I remember our conversations about her earlier in the season. It seemed like earlier in the season, you were like, she's going to be a perfect fit. Like, she's going to do everything that they need her to do. But maybe over the time span, and then this last game that you watched, I wonder if she is wearing down a little bit just from so many games and, the things that she said that she needed to work on.
Yeah, and I think Eurobasket is, when she plays for Lithuania, she is like the far and away best player. So like she's, the focal point, and she's involved in almost, 75% of the actions. But when she plays for, her Spanish team, it's definitely much less than that. And I would still say she's probably like one of the best players, but there are more experienced veteran players that are confident with the ball in their hands to run an action and to play the point. So she's probably just less featured. But I think teams are probably game planning her against her a little more. Like I would say the scout would be just be physical and play up in her grill and see if she makes the wrong call and the wrong pass. I think most of the time she makes the right one, but I could see how you can get it under her skin a little bit by just playing a little more physical.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting as we are at the end of February here. We'll talk about the CBA here in a second, but they put a deadline in, and it's like this stuff, if we have a season, it is going to be revving up really quickly. Like games within like 2 months, like if the schedule stays what it's supposed to be. So that means she's coming off of this season that she's having, and she'll probably have a small break and then right back into it, kind of like how the college players are gonna handle it.
We say it, probably once every couple weeks. That's why, the Athletics WNBA show is called No Off Season, because they're covering women's basketball year round, but not just they're covering it, is that the players are also playing hoop year round. The majority of the players, except for I think just Caitlin and Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year Sabrina, but everyone else is basically just in a league year round, whether it's unrivaled, whether it's an international league with the Turkish, Spanish, EuroLeague. It's just AU in Tennessee or in Nashville. And yeah, there's nonstop hoops, college to the W really quickly. Who were we waiting on? We were waiting on Janelle Salon last year to come to the Valkyries because she was in, what team was she playing for? Was it no, it wasn't the French league. I think it was the Turkish league, maybe the finals or something, or I forget which league she was, but she was in like the finals, legit like finals MVP as the training camp was starting. So they had to wait for her to get there. And as they were making cuts, they was just like, yeah, Janelle's not getting cut. Like she's in the finals right now and about to be a finals MVP for this league and this team.
So let's we're gonna push any unrivaled conversation into next week because the playoffs are gonna start soon. And although I will mention the one-on-one stuff was actually pretty fun. Chelsea Gray mopped up with everybody to win it. And
how great was it that was like simultaneously happening as like this, the 3-point and dunk contest,
terrible dunk contest was happening.
Yeah. That was good. Yeah. Probably good publicity for them. Is it like, look, these women are playing ones, and it's the thing that the men are embarrassed to go for.
Yeah. And then Steph, after the 3-point shootout, he's like, we got to get the band back together. We need to make this the event.
I remember it was a dunk contest maybe like 2 years ago or something, and they were starting to do market next year, Jaws on the phone with Anthony Edwards after this one. Oh, let's see if we can get whatever happened to that, man. That was not that long ago, and they were trying to do the same. I think Steph and Dame and Clay are actually going to do it though.
Yeah, because they're made. They're not insecure. They don't have to worry about missing a dunk and being on.
And I know that dunk contest thing's a it's more layered. Like, there's just the negatives far outweigh the positives. Like, maybe you're not getting paid out for it. You could have Jace Richardson moment where you just hit the back of your head and you're a forever meme on the internet.
That poor dude.
So I see that. I know that it's layered and that the negatives can outweigh the positives, but man, just from a fan perspective, we kind of just want you to be like, yeah, you make $30 million a year, go out and perform. Like, I want to see a show.
I don't know. I don't know if anyone else has ever been injured in the dunk contest, but it doesn't. It is a very explosive event, and so there is possibility, but it's really more about the emotional part of it than the physical part of it for these guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the current situation with CBA. So the league, the most recent news is that the league basically said to all of the teams and to the Players Association that they need to have a handshake deal by March the 10th, or the season could be impacted. Now, there's not really too much detail about what that means. Like, does that mean they lose games? Does that mean that things get chunked closer together? Because all of these things still have to happen. We have 2 expansion teams who don't even have the list of players that they can draft, not had the expansion draft yet. We still have a free agency. We have the thing before the free agency, which is the teams who, if we still have this rule that allows them to core their players, like that happens kind of before free agency, and then you still have the draft. So there's so many things that are left to happen, and they finally put a date in and said we need to do this or things are going to get impacted. I don't know. Do you feel like that's going to create some urgency, or does it really matter? Because what they're arguing about, it's like whoever blinks first loses.
Yeah, because it was the WNBA that that like made this handshake deadline, right? Like, I just don't feel like the players are they're like the WNBA is trying to create some sense of urgency. Like, okay, and there is urgency, right? Like how much stuff would have been completed by now? Like you already mentioned a couple of things: expansion draft, the coring, thing, and free agency, but I just feel like the WNBA, like as of a most recent proposal, it just felt like the two sides were still so far apart. I just don't see the WNBA Players Association being like really phased by that deadline. Like that's more, yeah.
There are a couple of positive things that have happened of late, though. The first thing is that they finally hit their revenue sharing target, because the deal that they signed before the pandemic, they had to hit a certain revenue share. They had to hit a certain target, and then the disbursement of extra funds would happen. Because of COVID and everything after COVID, they did not hit those revenue sharing targets. But this past year, they did. So that's a positive thing.
Why I want to know though, was it reported on why it took that long to come out? Was it genuinely just like, okay, we didn't have the calculations until now, or was it like the league was trying to hide something like that? Because that bodes in the player's favor of being like, see, like,
or it bodes into the owner's favor, saying, okay, maybe these revenue sharing targets aren't hard to get, and if you work with us, we can set them so that both sides are happy. Like, I think it could go both ways. I'm not saying that this is necessarily something only positive,
true,
for that sense. So I think that's a positive thing that happened. And I guess the next thing that happened is, they did come to some sort of agreement on smaller things. So it shows that they are working a little more closely together, and maybe there are some concessions happening. But it's still, the big one is going to be about the salary cap. And they're both looking at it from different perspectives, which is kind of interesting, because the players want, I think it's 27.5% of the gross, and the league is saying, no, we'll give you X number of whatever the net is. But if you look at it from a gross perspective, it's probably like closer to like 15% gross or something like that. So I think, and I looked at this, and there's some really sharp people who are putting together some great pieces when it comes to this stuff. And I think last year they were at like under 10% gross, the revenue that the players got. So to ask for it to be from under 10% to jump up to 27.5, that's a pretty big jump. You're more than doubling. Now, should the league do more than just, times it by 1.5? Maybe they should. Maybe that should be a little bit more. Again, in the negotiation, what I was thinking, I wonder what would happen. Now, whatever way you want to explain it, whether it's through gross or through net or through whatever, but what if the league got closer to 20 and said, you guys want 27.5, we'll get to 20, and over the 5 years, you hit these markers and it eventually gets to 25. I wonder, and that may be what they're doing right now for all we know. We haven't heard anything about that. But I wonder if the league is actually working towards that, or if they're like hardlined at what they're saying right now. Because the players will have to come down, the league will have to come up. Will they meet in the middle? I don't know who has the leverage there. But when you're talking about March 10th being 2 weeks away, a little bit less than 2 weeks away, like, I'm hoping that there's some movement. I'm hoping that these talks are happening. And the problem is that, again, it's about who's blinking first. The league, I forget how long it took for the league to send in a new proposal. And then they send in their new proposal, and then they're like, well, the players aren't acting in enough urgency. And the players are like, it took you guys like over a month to get us the last proposal. So quit. It's really about this public perception stuff.
Right.
And but the problem with these negotiations and them being so public is there's a trust that is like right in front of our eyes. The trust is just slowly going away. So, and who knows? We don't know how much trust there was there in the first place, especially when Nafisa Collier talks about the owner and the way that she did from Jump Street. So I'm hopeful that we can see some progress, and maybe that March 10th date is really not a real date. Maybe the real date is really like March 17th and they can still do everything. But you're really just trying to get them back to the table and get them working. So I'm hopeful. This podcast is hopeful. If we don't have a season, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. But if we do have a season, all of this stuff is going to be truncated in a small amount of time. So we're going to have tons of stuff to talk about, maybe too much stuff to talk about. So that's that. And we'll circle back when we hear, like, I'm constantly looking at the athletic app, looking for Sabrina's name and going like, okay, I want to see what Sabrina says about this. So I'm on it. I'm looking for anything and everything that comes to that comes up about this. Okay. The thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on was our friend Conrado Pascual, who's been on this show a couple of times already. He put out his mock draft. Now, Conrado, he writes for the Center Hub. He's the digital content person for the Center Hubs. Actually, I don't know how much writing he's doing, but I know that's his jam right now. He's also does a podcast called East Meets West. And he put together a mock draft that I thought was pretty interesting because he has been steadfast that Awafem should not be the number one pick.
Yeah.
And every other mock draft I have seen says that Awafem is going to be the number one pick. So very interested to see or to hear your thoughts on his board. So I'll read out his top 4 because he also has a couple other players that are higher on this list than what we saw from Sabrina's mock draft from the other day. Okay, so he has AZ Foot at 1. She is, by the way, almost 4 years older than Awafem. He has Awafem at 2, Lauren Betts at 3, and Kiki Rice at 4. Now, I called this a mock draft, but he calls it a big board. So this has nothing to do with where the teams may want to draft.
Yeah, he's saying these are just the best.
More to do with who he believes are the best players. So if you when we bring him on, we'll have a discussion over what players fit some teams better. But what did you think of that 4 as far as the big board.
Yeah, I mean, like cards on the table, like I do trust Conrado, more than my own opinion on a lot of this stuff, just because of how much time he's put in and how I haven't put in as much. But I think that just from a what I value, NBA and WNBA is like from a prospects perspective, like I don't think you can go wrong at AZ and Awafam 1 or 2. I probably would lean Awafam just because of her size and the way she moves at 6'3", and the way she passes for a big, and the way that she could play defense, and and also the fact that she's 4 years younger than AZ Fudd. Like I just think that there's a lot of potential there, and it's a lot of realistic potential, and not really like this project type of potential. It's more like you could see like the scalability and see like, okay, someone who plays that defense that well, who's this young, and moves the way she does at this size, like this almost feels like a kind of can't miss prospect. And I'm not saying she's going to be like some MVP type of player. I think that we're looking at her floor is probably like high level starter, and her ceiling is like all W type of player. And with AZ Fudd, she was a former #1 high school recruit the year after Paige, and she's a 5th-year senior, and she's an incredible ball player. Like I think that she's the best 3-point shooter in the in college, and will achieve that height in the WNBA. Not like it will not take that long for her to be like top 3-point shooter in the league. I think she's also a can't miss type of prospect. Like I don't see a world in where AZ Fudd is a bad player ever. Like I don't. It's really just injury dependent, and you haven't had to worry about an AZ Fudd injury in a while. Whereas she kind of did start her college career with a lot of injuries. But I think that I think she's like I think honestly both of these prospects are prospects that will fit on whatever team you put them on. It does not matter. So I think kind of looking at the Lynx, just like their ability to potentially just add AZ Fudd to an already great roster is just like a little unfair. And she's just gonna do all the right things. She's a great defender, great 3-point shooter. I think my pause with her as a player is just her being able to initiate self-creation looks at the next level. I don't know if Conrado anticipates that, if that's going to be a strength of hers, or he's just kind of like, look, like this player can play defense at a high level and is going to be one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Like that already alone in a weaker class should be considered a #1 player. And I would agree with that. And maybe he does buy the self-creation, and I would probably agree with that too. But I think in terms of just what I value as a prospect, I'd go Awafam 1. In terms of Lauren at the 3, for me, like I think the way like I would maybe feel about that type of selection is that you just don't really believe in many of the other prospects, because I think Lauren Betts is a good basketball player. I've watched her a lot. I just don't really buy the archetype of like, I feel like we're fading away from the 6'7", center that can't shoot, but she's a great passer. She's a great defender. She moves well. Like, I don't know. It's just, her not being able to shoot the 3, and, her maybe being able to be at the next level targeted on the perimeter if you want to get a switch and go by her. Or, I just feel like some of the best teams don't really utilize that type of height in their player. Like, Asia Wilson's the best player in the league. Like they weren't really throwing out, someone who's that tall with her. It was more like she, in the most important moments, it's like she's one of the tallest players on the roster. And, but I think the obvious omission is Olivia Miles, who I think just I could see why she's not there, but I would probably have her there just because I think that I value IQ and passing, and I think she's the best out of anyone here with that. She's just incredible with like her vision. And like I remember watching her for the first time in college, and I think it was honestly last year because she missed her entire sophomore year, or it was her junior year. One of the years she missed, Hannah Hidalgo's rookie year, she missed that entire year with injury. And so when I watched her, when her and Hannah were on the court together, I was just like, holy crud. Like I felt like I was watching, men's college basketball or even the NBA, just the way that she could come off a pick and roll and just like dish it to someone, and just like it's picture perfect, and it's just like no look, and it's flashy. And I was just like, whoa. Like I think the question for her has always been the 3-point shooting, but I think the percentages look good. I will say that jump shot has never looked good to me, like just in terms of the way it looks. So I guess if you buy it, you buy it. And then I imagine she's probably a 2 or 3 prospect for you. If you don't, you don't. And I could see how she falls. But I think for me, I would just have her in that top 3 just in case, like a what if, like it translates to the next level. Because if it does, then you're looking at you're looking at an all-star, honestly, in my opinion. Kiki at the 4, I feel like she's just kind of been like a slow riser, I feel like, in draft boards. Like she was a high recruit coming out of high school. And then I think this draft class this year, I felt her stock kind of fall, and now I feel like it's coming back up. We watched her play. We like her if she does all the right things. So I'm fine with
She
that.
doesn't test off the board. She just looks like a steady, really good basketball player.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that is his first tier. His second tier is Nell Angloma, Iana Martin, Flauge Johnson, Olivia Miles at 8, which is where the Valkyries actually draft. But again, this is not a mock. This is a big board. And then Tanaya Latson at 9. Hawkes would be in the next tier at 10, and we've talked about her a lot. But yeah, I just thought, I thought it was interesting to see. I when we do bring him on, we'll ask him sort of about fits, here and there, and just the fact that he in his big board, where I'm sure age is not as big of a deal as it would be on in a mock.
Mhm.
You know, he's got AZ Fudd, who's 23, Lauren Betts 22 and a half, Kiki Rice 22, Olivia Miles at 8 is 23. So the Awa fam being under 20, Nell Angloma still being under 20, Iana Martin being barely over 20. That is going to matter in some of these mocks. It's just the age of these women, and
That matters, but also like you could probably anticipate. Well, I guess it might change now considering the CBA is agreed on, and then you have more money in the W. But some of those players may get asked by the teams to stash for a year. And
now, I think one of the things that they may, I don't know if this is 100% agreed upon, but I think they are adding roster spots. So
maybe have like a developmental roster spot.
You have developmental roster spots. They don't have enough players necessarily to have a developmental team or league. So they may still want them to go play overseas because they're not getting those reps. But
yeah.
You think about how the Warriors use their the last 2 or 3 spots on the bench, like guys who aren't necessarily going to play, but they practice, and they have to be ready, but they're also not like your tippy top prospects, because you want those guys to probably play a little bit more in the G League than to just sit on the bench.
The only thing is that like those leagues don't run at the same time, so it's like stay in France and prepare for your Euro team, but that league doesn't even start until the W is over anyway.
They're going to have to invest in a G League type of thing for sure. I mean, it doesn't have to be as expansive as it is in the NBA, because I know it's probably harder to run than we think. But heck, I'd be down to have a San Jose, whatever G League WNBA team that plays at the San Jose State Event Center. I'd be down with that. I'd go watch. Yeah. So, all right, let's talk some Warriors hoops here for a few minutes. Warriors. Kristaps Porzingis, you got to watch the one game that he played in. I missed that game because I just saw that they were losing by so much. They did come back in the end, but I was like, I don't want to watch this. I get too depressed watching bad basketball. How do you think Kristaps fit? How did he look? Do you think this is going to be an option for them next year? What were your thoughts off of his 20-minute performance or whatever it was?
I feel like they kind of played better without him, but I'm not going to like fault him to that. Like, cause there was a little bit of a fake comeback in the 4th. I mean, they're only down by like 12, but I think he's a fine player when healthy. It's kind of hard to evaluate this kind of stuff
and he's only played one game because he's been sick since.
Yeah. And is like, illness is not like Celebrini, hey, go check on his ankle. It's like a immune system. Like, it's kind of hard to evaluate. But
yeah, and I wonder how that is going to affect his offseason, because is it going to be better for him just to go, you know what, I'm just going to stay here, I'm going to play one more year, take a smaller deal, um, because his future is so up in the air and dependent on health. And I mean, like the health thing is just on top of already the injuries that he had to deal with as the original unicorn. And I I just don't believe that he's ever going to be even a 60 player 60 game player per season ever
Yeah, like, we're
again.
not gonna be able to get, like, a random fully healthy Otto Porter Jr. season, and then, everything before that and everything after that is so, like, injury riddled, but we got him for that 1 year. It's probably not gonna happen with Kristaps, just given, the situation and given his health status, and yeah.
But you got to think though, because I don't know how else you would think. Jimmy comes back next year. You still have Draymond, you still have Steph. You bring back Porzingis, and I guess you hope one of these younger players kind of uses the end of this season to come into their own, whether
I mean, it's looking like both Pods and Moody are, doing that right now.
it's kind of I've been impressed watching Moody because, as we've said, sometimes we were like, wow, he plays really good. And then we were like, okay, but he's playing with Steph. What does he look like when he plays without Steph? And it wasn't as good. But now he's played all these games without Steph and he looks good. He does the Moody stuff. As long as he stays within himself and doesn't try to do too many things. Like sometimes all of a sudden he'll pump fake and he'll come down the baseline. And I'm like, is this dude going to try to yam on somebody? And no, he kind of gets stuck and has to make the pass out. But I've liked what he's done. D'Anthony Melton has been really good. If D'Anthony Melton is your sixth man, I gotta imagine he's gonna get tons of offers in the offseason.
That's tough. Yeah, because like I was thinking about it today. Like, where does D'Anthony Melton rank in like the Warriors, like non-big name players? Like since the championship year, like since like Otto Porter Jr. and since Dante DiVincenzo, since Ty Jerome, even that year. Like I just feel like Melton's like might be the best one out of all of them. And because of that, is he playing himself out of a Warriors contract? And if so, like that's a big blow. Like he's really been, I think he's been like awesome. Like every time I watch him, it's just like, man, just imagine what this team would have looked like maybe more healthy. And that's a bummer. I feel like this kind of has maybe some 2022 2023 Warriors, if that, written all over it, where it's like maybe you sneak a good round like they were last year. You sneak around and then you lose, but you look back at that 2022 team and it's like, wow, you had Dante DiVincenzo and JP was on that team and Ty Jerome was on that team, and although he wasn't activated for the playoffs, but it's like there were some guys on that team that weren't fully as evolved as they are now, but had we had them at that state, it's like, look at what we had. And I wonder if that's kind of the direction that they're headed.
Player for player, money, age, longevity doesn't matter. Like Melton over Pods every day of the week right now. Like it's not even close, I don't think.
And Pods has played really like. Did you get to catch that Nuggets game?
15 rebounds the other day.
He was like actually on a heater in the fourth quarter. Like he like took it upon himself to just take hard shots, and all of them were falling. It felt like,
and that's the problem, right? Is he can play like that, and then the next game he just plays terribly, and people start hating him again.
the thing with Pods though is I feel like I've kind of been saying it all year. Is like the stuff usually looks right. It's just a matter of like sometimes that ball falling, and sometimes it's really bad misses, like off the side of the backboard, or like just a complete miss of the rim. And it's like, man, how do you miss that badly? But I kind of almost think like he needs the rebounds to like get him going a little bit. Like if
the rebounds and the charges, it seems.
Yeah, like he's been on a upswing lately, and the rebounds have been quite up. So we'll see.
And then our guy, and I was very interested in your thoughts on him. Is Guy Santos a rotational piece?
Is that the question?
Yeah. Do you think he is a rotational piece on the Warriors?
I think without a doubt he's played himself into, a rotational piece. And, I guess we'd have to look at the roster once healthy if it's, where he kind of falls. But I wonder, like, as the podcast conversations from Plus Minus and Simmons and all TK show, it's like, maybe Draymond comes off the bench and is like, do you start Gee next year? You start like Steph, Melton, Gee, Jimmy, KP? Like, would that be, what the starting lineup would look like? Or, so I think that Gee has started to really understand, the Draymond role offensively. Like he's just always like when Steph was there, he was looking for Steph a lot, and he realizes that he's not the most talented offensive player or most athletic, so you kind of have to play a little more tricky. Whether that's just a hard pump fake at the rim and a defender flies by and you get an easy layup. Like how many times he does that so much. But I wonder if he could be a starter for this team. Yeah, I think he's good, and I think the 3-point shot looks really good, and yeah.
All right, let's end with this because I know you have somewhere to go. Wait, what movie are you seeing again?
The Revenant. I've never seen it. It's in IMAX.
Is that
the Leo movie?
Leo movie with the bear?
And it's the his name Alexander or something Inarritu. He's the one who's actually directing the Tommy Cruise Judy or what's it called? What's it called? Digger. So we're gonna.
I've never seen The Revenant either.
And he also directed Birdman. So I mean the IMAX always does, like, they were partnered with like A24 for a while where they were just putting up A24 re-releases on IMAX. So I saw Moonlight for the first time last year, and that was awesome to see in IMAX. And there's just anytime, like, I'm just so lucky to have an IMAX at my local AMC because I have the AMC A list, and I just get the IMAX, as a quote unquote free because I pay, X amount of money per month. But the
Sometimes
IMAX ticket
I
alone
get notifications and it's like, you bought this ticket. And I was like, when did I buy this ticket? It's like, oh, Brian bought this ticket.
Yeah, man.
So real quick, just because we were talking about it, but I was talking to some folks, and I talk about IMAX all the time, and a lot of folks who live in smaller cities are like, yeah, my IMAX screen is 2 hours away. So I feel bad. Now you actually have a real IMAX screen. I have a fake one.
You have a real one. I just have the supercharged one. Like, yours looks like the majority of the country's IMAX screen.
But they're not super duper like real IMAX. Like they're bigger, but like that one that you have, that's like the real deal. I have two actually within 10 miles from me, so I'm actually pretty lucky.
Yeah.
All right, that's
good.
Let's talk about the last thing so you can get out of here, which is Steve Kerr. Now, I think this is the underreported story for the Warriors. We know that he is a lame duck coach in the sense of he doesn't have a contract next year. So he's coaching this year, and it seems preferable to him. I don't know if it's preferable to Lacob. I don't know if this frustrates Lacob. I don't know if this is what Lacob wants. I cannot read Lacob on.
Did you listen to the TK show?
Yeah, but he just seems irritated all the time now. Like I can't gauge if Lacob is like usually Lacob is hyperbole and positivity and tech CEO mindset. And then just recently he's kind of been edgy and kind of frustrated, which is good because I don't want him to be happy and the Warriors are not that good. But if the Warriors run back what you said, bring back KP, bring back Melton, bring back Steph, Draymond, Jimmy.
Horford.
Who better to coach this team than Steve Kerr? I can't imagine unless there's somebody in the pipeline right now who is Warriors adjacent, who is like he doesn't want to coach. He doesn't want to deal with people.
I mean, but who else? Like, I mean, I don't even really mean the Iguodala thing seriously, but you're right. Like, this is totally like a Steve Kerr team, and it feels like anyone other than him coaching would be, not the right call. I can't really think of many other candidates that, outside of a former Warrior player, like it wouldn't make sense. Like, this is Steve Kerr's system. This is Stephen Curry's system.
Yeah,
it would not make sense for him not to coach. And I kind of feel like Lacob and Kerr don't really have like this, personal relationship after working together for as long as they have and experiencing as much success together as long as they have. And I guess it makes sense. Like he's the big boss, but that's kind of the vibe I got.
I'm looking on their current staff. I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think Terry Stotts is the only guy with actual coaching experience,
like head coaching experience.
Yeah, head coaching experience.
Yeah, I mean, it would have made sense maybe if Atkinson was still here. It would have made sense if DeMarco, maybe didn't go to the Liberty. Like those
Liberty,
two,
man.
DeMarco especially has been there since, as long as Kerr's been there, I'm pretty sure. So
he still needs to return your text.
man. I'm never getting a text back from that guy. But no, there's no one else who I can, I'm
Jerry
sure there's some long-term.
Stackhouse?
No,
I mean, are they
I don't think
grooming
so.
Stackhouse to become a head coach?
I mean, I feel like he'll be a head coach maybe someday, and I just feel like the Kerr handoff for Warriors coaches is gonna go internally, and I think it's supposed to I think it's it's gonna be when the Steph stuff is over, and the Steph. It would just feel wrong if it isn't, and then they go seek externally. I feel like that's not the Warriors' way. They've been doing this internal stuff, especially looking at the Dunleavy hire, how that was an internal hire, and it seems like and I think that's good, and I think that has, I think as well as they've done stuff on the basketball court, I think it's smarter to kind of have internal hires rather than go externally and just this is the way we do things, and you go up the ladder, and
I
so
mean,
it would
just
just
to
be
go
weird.
back to what you were saying with Atkinson, I mean, Mike Brown, do you hope that he gets fired by the Knicks? I don't think that's gonna happen.
He has a little Robert Sala type of reunion, and then he gets hired again.
I mean, I'm trying to think of other Luke Walton's name is not out there anymore as far as a legitimate guy.
Yeah, but we're not happy about really these don't seem like great options.
Yeah, I just don't see that. This is what I'm saying. The story is underreported unless nobody believes that Kerr's going anywhere.
I just don't believe it yet, but I know that it's been I know that it's being talked about more and more, and you can kind of see that. I think Simmons talked about it, right? Simmons
He
talked
says
about
he's
his
not
show.
coming back.
Yeah, and then TK's talked about it late on the what is his show called with the LA guy? The North Meets South or something?
North and South, yeah.
North and South. Yeah, he talked about it too, and I mean
the Simmons comment caused TK to drop 3 F-bombs in a sentence.
He did say he did say that. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. It wouldn't make sense, and
it scares me is what it does,
yeah.
because it doesn't seem like the Warriors necessarily have a plan. Now, maybe Lacob's plan is we're just going to go hire the biggest name possible of whoever is out there, but I don't know who's out there. So so we'll see.
In terms of importance to the Steph Curry era, if you use Dunleavy, Clay, Dre, Steph, Kerr, you could say Steph's by far the most important, but Kerr's second, right? You'd probably say Kerr's the second most important of this, dynasty.
Kerr or Clay or Draymond. I'd probably say Kerr as well, just because he's the consistent,
the architect.
Dre has been very valuable.
Totally.
Clay left, and they're still competitive. So, but the three of them, they have the four of them, I guess you should say, have the titles together. So there is something to the idea of the unit and the consistency and the understanding of each other. But it's got to be hard. And we forget all the back injuries that Steve went through over the years. Remember, he was always gone, and all of a sudden, you have other people coaching, and it's oh, is Steve Kerr going to get back? So, I guess the last thing about this coaching thing is, could Joe Lacob, by not securing Steve Kerr, could that change the relationship with Curry? I think that's really what everyone's biggest fear is that are they a pair? And if one is not handled correctly, does that affect the other one? I guess that's kind of my biggest fear here.
But that, one's bulletproof. I feel like Steph isn't going to have to worry about, half the stuff that maybe Steve is worrying about.
Yeah, but what if Steph is not happy?
Yeah.
That's the worry. So, anyways, I'm sure that'll be a discussion that we have more closer to the end of the season, but it looks like the Warriors are just going to sit in the 8th seed no matter what, and probably play the Clippers in the first play-in. Is that what it's looking like?
Jeez, they're kryptonite.
I know, but no Harden.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a different team, and who knows with Kawhi. But yeah, so
Kawhi's giving up, and his team's playing hard.
I mean,
I don't blame him. They had traded 2 high-level starters.
I guess it would technically be. It technically would be Warriors Suns. I always forget how they do the play-in.
Well, it's 9-10 versus 7-8, and then loser of 7-8 and winner of 9-10 play each other.
The Warriors Suns would be first round.
If
Or the
season
first
ended
play
today.
in, I guess, technically. But the Lakers are not that far out. I thought the Lakers were so much more ahead
No,
of
they've
where
been
the Warriors are, but they've been pretty average like the Warriors of late. So there might be some movement. There might be some 6 to 8 movement if Steph can come back and get hot, but
yeah.
I'm not holding my breath on that one.
If he does, it's just 2022. Like that's just what it's looking like.
Okay, so that's it from here. We'll be back next week. Like I said, we'll talk some Unrivaled. We'll be able to see, hopefully, Steph is on his way back by the time we record again. And more stuff with the WNBA and their labor negotiations. So, all right, that's it from here. For Bri, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.